Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mining Now. We are filming here at CIM 2024 in Vancouver. I'm excited today because we have a part 2 guest with Wenco. We are going to be featuring Glen Trainor, and he is their VP of Commercial. And I was looking at some of Glen's experience. He has been with Wenco for now over 27 years. Glen, is that correct?
Yeah, it is, right? Yeah, it's not something you see a lot nowadays. It wasn't the plan.
Okay.
Right?
That's phenomenal.
It was out of university. I had a 5-year plan, but it was a small company when I joined.
Right.
And it just had everything to offer for somebody out of university.
Yep.
Ready to grow, get your fingers experience and everything.
Yeah. Where did you go to university?
Locally at Simon Fraser.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
And did you always plan on going into mining?
No, it wasn't the plan at all. I think like a lot of people out of university, there wasn't much of a plan.
Right. I've been there.
But it was I was working for the railway before that, actually, and in a dispatching mode, helping the dispatchers.
Right.
And then so when the opportunity came up with Wenco, which is offering fleet management systems, and the core of that is dispatching, then it was a natural fit.
I see.
So got into them with the marketing arm.
Yeah.
I was the marketing arm at that time. It was a small company.
Yeah.
So got into the marketing arm, and as I say, it just opened up with a lot of opportunities just to carry on.
Yeah, and so again, this is the second episode. The industry trends are a big thing with technology and that with Wenco. What are you kind of seeing happening now in the business?
Right. Well, there's a lot of similarities from what we've seen in the past in terms of mining companies nowadays are data rich. They have a lot of systems.
So much. Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of data coming in, and they've always been, in my opinion, they've always had trouble, right, extracting the value from that data, right, really working with it, finding the data that matters, finding the data that has that true value, and turning it into actions that help improve them. So that's been a trend for a while in the mining industry, but I think right now what we're seeing, the difference there is there's a shift from a short-term focus on gains, right, which is what it typically has been. What can you do for me now? To sort of a longer term focus on the value.
Okay.
Right. So they've invested in these technologies, and now they're going, okay, it's a long term focus where we need to really work to get that value out of the systems. And on top of that, they're turning to the suppliers,
right,
for that assistance. And we haven't seen that previously either. It's usually been they would bring people on, they would bring third-party consultants in, right? And the vendor was seen as that. We would supply, right? We would support, of course, but we were never really invited in to come work with the product.
Yeah.
And that's been a very positive trend, and we welcome that, right?
So on that side of it, so when you say those, like with your role, VP of Commercial, are you talking to a lot of the clients then now and that are wanting to harness this data?
Yeah, so VP of Commercial, it covers everything basically that's customer facing.
Okay.
Everything from sales, implementation, support,
right,
marketing, and customer success. So, and it's that customer success division that we have right now. That's that draw now. So they're talking to the customers, finding out what their struggles are, finding out what their goals are, so that we can assist them to use our product. And the goals, I think that's more of the systems that we provide, whether it's fleet management system, asset health, our Ready Line, or even the safety systems with SmartCap. There used to be a tendency just to focus on the operations itself.
Okay.
And now it's being recognized that there must be an alignment between the business model and the operations.
Maybe unpack that just a little bit more, even for my own understanding. So what's been that big difference that you've seen now in that? Maybe if you just unpack that.
Sure. Well, it's instead of just going in, and if I can give a sort of a real world example, instead of going in and just doing classroom training and what button to push, right, when you want to do something, it's going in and understanding, what is it from a business side where they are creating and protecting their value, right, as a business.
Okay.
And then working with them, this is how you will then use our systems to meet your business goals.
Okay.
Rather than just the short-term objectives, hour to hour, day by day.
Okay.
An example of that on a more general scope, a larger scope, would be a contractor versus an owner-operator mining.
Okay.
So a contractor has a different business model.
Yeah.
Right? They're being paid differently.
Yeah.
Right. They have different KPIs and different goals.
Right.
Than an owner-operator running the load and haul fleet may have.
Right.
But it's the same system that they both use. So it's working with those two different entities, those two different clients.
Yeah.
To understand how they can use the same system, but how they can use it to match their specific needs.
That's actually an interesting point. And I know when we were talking, like in the prep, we were looking at a slide from Ernst & Young, and it talks about the top 10 risks and opportunities.
Right.
Is there, when you looked at that, what really stood out? I think you said there was kind of like 3 areas that really stood out.
There were, yeah, thanks. There was, when looking at the Ernst & Young top 10 risks and opportunities, in the top 5, 3 of them were ESG related.
Okay.
Right? Environmental, social, and governance related. Number 1 was ESG, just as the umbrella ESG. Yep. And then there was capital, and then there was the license to operate.
Right.
Which is ESG as well. It's not that piece of paper they're getting. It's not the permit to go mine. The license to operate is their brand. It's their the community acceptance. Does the community trust them to come in and be a good neighbor?
Yeah.
Right. And then the other one in terms of ESG was climate change, of course. So now, even though our systems don't directly affect that, we do have the data. We do have the contextual data, right, to support that, report on the ESG, provide them the information that they need. And that actually, those 3, even though it's indirectly to what Wenco provides, actually supports the previous trend you were asking me about long-term value.
Right.
Right. So this goes hand in hand with that. ESG is not a short-term gain. ESG is something that needs to be paid attention to over the long term. So that sort of dovetails nicely into that long-term value. Then you get down to point number 5, I think it was in the top 10, which was digital and innovation. And of course, that's exactly where we fit. And then number 6, cost and productivity.
Right.
So,
and those can almost be combined, because like with the digital side and the innovation, that directly will affect that cost. That's productivity.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And then when you break down that digital innovation even further, they talk about process intelligence and automation. That's where we're involved contextually again with the data, the interoperability, having the open systems. Right. That we provide. And that's to sort of feed into that. Then there's business and operations intelligence. Sort of spoke to that earlier as well, but that's right in our wheelhouse. ESG platform, decision making, and ROCs, or the remote operating centers. So all of that is in the digital innovation sort of category. And that's right where we fit.
Yeah, and I think because that was the other slide here that you mentioned. Because to go deeper into those, that process intelligence and automation. I think this is from the same report, right? The second slide.
I believe it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the fleet management, from what I remember from the first episode, Wenco started basically trying to come up with a solution in 2018, right? For
fleet management systems? The company is 35 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was, so it was a lot sooner than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry. I think it was the.
Oh, sorry. I think I know what you're getting at, and that's the. It was around. It was the open systems aspect of it.
Thank you.
In 2020.
Yeah, they basically said this needs to be an open system. Correct?
Right. Yes, and so it may seem it may seem odd right now. It doesn't make sense, right? Why would you not have the miners have access to that data?
Yeah.
But back then, 35 years ago, when systems were being developed and there was only a few on the market, they were proprietary systems.
Right.
And proprietary in terms of the databases were locked. If the miner needed anything, any of that data, we would have to provide an API or an interface or create a report for them.
Right.
Right. And we were the first ones in the industry to get away from that proprietary method architecture,
yeah,
and provide an open database. Now, it seems natural now, but back then it was, I think it was a bit of a shakeup in the industry because our business model was proprietary data, right? The mine sites would pay us to create a report, pay us for that interface.
So for those reports, they actually had to pay each time they basically wanted that report.
That's the way most of the fleet management systems were back then.
Right.
So it was a bit of a shakeup in the industry to go towards that open system. And it was a recognition that Wenco had at the time is, you know what, this may be the business model that we are in, but it's not the business model that the mining industry needs.
Right.
Right. The mining industry needs to be competitive, right? And they need that information, and they're the ones that are going to understand what data they need and what value they're going to get out of it.
Yeah, especially in these fleets.
Right. And so let's open it up for them.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just paying attention to the needs of the industry.
With Wenco, are you seeing a lot with like these trends that you're talking about? Are you seeing that like Wenco may be sort of immune to those just because of that data that you're now able to capture for the clients?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different aspects there. So in terms of, being immune to any shakeups or cycles within the mining industry, with the fleet management, with the ready line asset health, with the fatigue, right? With the safety systems for fatigue, when the industry is going well, the mining companies, they have the money, they want to improve, they'll invest in technology and systems. When the industry is suffering a bit or there's a potential for it, they're still investing in those systems because they need to operate more efficiently, right? And safer, right? So there is always that investment. Now, that's cycle by cycle, but in terms of the trends, in terms of being immune to stuff like that, I think that's not inherent in the technology at all.
Okay.
I think that's the foresight, the strategy, the comment I made before about paying attention to what the industry needs. And that foresight is what has allowed us to, excel for the past 35 years. Right.
I don't know if we cover this. So I'm kind of curious when you're talking about this open, like this, the open concept, and that's actually talked about a lot now with the data, people that are working in that data side of it.
Right.
When you have that open, so you can basically capture data from, let's say, various brands of machines in a fleet. Does that data, as it stacks up and builds, is there a potential for other like operators, like contractors and miners, to continue using, like, to basically grow on that data as well, so that they can use that to their benefit without having to start all over again?
In terms of, well, it depends who owns the system at the time, right? So we're going to sell it to the mining company.
Yeah.
So they're in charge of that data.
Right.
So they can use it. So I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question.
Yeah, I guess there's no way. I guess with that data that comes in, so the mining company owns it.
Yeah.
We won't do names of mining companies because we won't get into that. But let's say it's a copper mine. They've got an open pit. They've got a large fleet. I guess for their future mines where they own those other assets, they can use that data to.
Sure, they'll pull trends on the machines.
Yeah,
right. They'll pull trends on compatibility of certain types of trucks with certain types of shovels, the road network, everything. Right.
Yeah, so, that road seems like a big one too.
Yeah, so there's all of that. There's all of those capabilities within that data that they can learn from.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Well, I think that sort of answered my question. Yeah. They obviously can't share it with another company.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. NDAs are all in place.
Yeah. With these changes that are coming up in the industry, I guess another aspect of it, what are you seeing from your clients? Like, what are What are challenges? What are opportunities that are coming into play for Wenco?
Well, some of them on a more, I don't want to say lesser level, on a more basic level, is the workforce in the mining industry.
Okay.
So, right, in terms of, I think it was 50% of the executives polled within the Ernst & Young report, they were saying that they had concerns about the ability to not only attract the necessary talent, but then order to sustain it, right? Keep them with the mining companies. So, and I think it's more to do with the remote locations, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, or do you want to live in these different countries, and and you're not staying in Holiday Inns, you're out in the middle of, right? You're out in the middle of nowhere. So it's there. That's a challenge for them right now, and that goes back to the remote operating centers, which we talked about briefly. With our technology, a lot of our clients right now are operating remote operating centers. So the dispatch center where the fleet management system is, or the asset health system is, or the safety system is, it's operated in a major city,
right,
thousands of kilometers away from the mine site.
Right.
So that's where this digital transformation is sort of easing some of those burdens or concerns.
That must be even more crucial, though, to get that data, because you've got, with having more people in, like, say, Vancouver, and they're like, somebody potentially now, you could have your remote operating center in a Vancouver here, and that mine could be in, well, anywhere almost, right?
Yeah. It can be northern British Columbia or wherever, right?
Like Africa.
Yeah, and I think and I think what's crucial there, like, the data is going to get there.
Yeah,
I think what's crucial is making sure there is that separation now, right, from the remote operating center to the mine site.
Right.
It's more I think our customer success division coming in and making sure there's that the communications, not technology wise, but maybe the human communication, the understanding of that business need.
Yeah.
And working with them to make sure that they're using those systems properly.
That customer success part of it, actually, so when you'll go in, and I'd imagine it's always when they're using, like, your system for the data. So you go in, how much time do you typically spend with those teams?
We'll work with them according to their needs. So it can be as simple as a system audit, and then recommendations on configurations and use. It can be as simple as that, which may take a matter of weeks.
Right.
Or it can be a long-term program where it's a maturity assessment. Going in and assessing, because when you speak about fleet management systems, a lot of people, and rightly so, they focus on the dispatching aspect of it.
Okay.
Right, because that's the main portion of it. But it's incredibly a breadth in terms of functionality and features.
Okay.
So anything from helping engineering to HR, operations, maintenance, mine management, right? There's all these different features within a mature FMS such as ours.
Okay.
And they can be used in a scalable manner from a small operation with a handful of trucks in the load and haul fleet.
Yep.
To a sophisticated operation with hundreds of equipment in the fleet, right, including auxiliary and high precision. So, and it's completely scalable along the way. So it's when you're doing a customer success engagement with a company, it can get, with the larger ones, it can be a maturity assessment to figure out what aspects of the system are they truly using well,
right,
and what aspects are they not using, and try to figure out why.
Do you see that a lot from clients? There'll be some that are like, they get a handle on it, they use it kind of to their potential, but then there's other ones that lag behind. Or
they focus, right? They're hyper focused on a particular area, right? So we can go in and help them branch out and use the system to its fullest potential.
I see.
Yeah, and that could be from maturity assessment to a series of audits to advanced systems training, including change management processes, making sure they understand that.
Yeah.
Right up to placing people on site. So we have full-time people that will go on site, and whether it's hardware, whether it's maintaining their hardware or it's working with the software and working with their real-time teams.
Oh, so they'll go, if it's a remote location, they might have to go out there and work with them. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all part of it too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you seen like a big spike now in interest in this? Like in the last few years, has it been pretty noticeable?
It's growing. Yeah, I don't know if I would call it a spike, but it is definitely growing. We're seeing more and more of that. Yeah, with these ROCs, and that was, I think, back to the original question. That was some of the trends that we're seeing or the concerns that we're seeing. And I think the other one, which we touched on, if you don't mind elaborating, it absolutely is, again, you were speaking about the openness of the system.
Yeah.
And that is where Wenco is spearheading the Open Autonomy program.
Okay.
And what that is, again, is very similar to, actually, it's a great parallel back to 2000 when we went from proprietary to open, right? We had a business model, but it wasn't what the industry needed. Right now, there's an industry model for autonomy, which is what we refer to as closed stack.
Okay.
Right. So, and that's our reference to it. Where if you want an autonomous system, you have to use one brand of load and haul equipment,
right?
One brand of fleet management system, one brand of this system, all the way up. So you're stuck with that one brand.
Yeah,
works very well, right? There are mature systems out there, but is it what the industry needs? So we're spearheading that open autonomy approach through an ISO standard where any autonomous system can work with any fleet management system.
A quick question on that too, because where my background, I was around like used equipment a lot. Do you see that now too? Like, is that a part of it? Like with multiple brands, they might go find a great piece of equipment somewhere. Can those be incorporated too with this system? Yeah.
So it's most mining operations, I would say, are probably mixed fleet.
Yeah.
Right? So they do have different brands,
definitely,
right, within it. So that's why the need for the open autonomy program is in there. Now, what Wenco is doing, we're not in charge of automating the equipment.
No.
Right. So it's that layer.
Yeah.
It's that ISO layer that anybody can use. Any fleet management system can talk to any autonomous system. So as long as there's that integration to that layer, then you can maintain your mixed fleet. So now there is that challenge, right, of the drive-by-wire and the automation on the individual pieces of equipment. But what the open autonomy, what the ISO open standard does, is it brings in competition.
Right.
So it'll bring in autonomous vendors, suppliers from other industries, such as agriculture.
Or urban,
right?
Okay.
Or urban, or whatever it might be. And they know how to automate, right, machinery.
Yeah.
So now again, you're not relying on the OEM brand. It opens up competition, and competition is always healthy for the industry.
And even actually you mentioned I love the agriculture sector too, because they have a lot of automation in it. They don't I don't think they talk about it a whole lot, but that information, based on what you're saying, can be used as well. If there's something that can be taken from there, then with this system, they can actually use that data. Right. And I'm not by no means am I an expert on autonomy, right? And the systems that go on there to automate these pieces of equipment. But I think it's the lessons learned on how to automate that equipment, not the data from agriculture. That's not going to be of any assistance. No. But it's the lessons learned on how to automate that equipment. And as I say, it comes in, the technology is coming from agriculture. There's another company out there, Urban, right, where they're using smart video, basically, right, to control the vehicles or to provide that awareness for the vehicles. Right. So it brings in the competition, and then what that also does is then allows the automation of other types of equipment. So not just the big mining trucks. Now you can get into the smaller payload, the articulated. Yeah. And it allows other manufacturers of trucks to come into the industry as well. I want to make sure we touch on this too, because I think you probably have answered it within all this, but what would you see the big values that Wenco's customers are seeing? Like, what are you hearing from their feedback? What are those big areas? Yeah, I think what it is, it's just that it starts with that real time
awareness, right? And that real-time awareness across the board in terms of what we're providing, right? Whether or not the fleet management system they have, or it's the asset health, or again the fatigue, right? So and the SmartCat fatigue is real time. It actually can eliminate fatigue events for operators in the field, right? So it's that. I think it goes back to something I touched on right at the beginning of our conversation, in terms of the value that they're seeing is Wenco's ability to present the data that will provide them value. Because as I said before, they're data rich, right? So it's being able to collect that data, categorize it, and present it to them in a way that's meaningful, so they can actually turn that into actions that'll benefit. Right.
On that fatigue side, what is that data capturing? What are your clients looking for from that?
Sure. So what our fatigue system is a wearable device.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it's a wearable device that you can. It's a headband that you can put inside your ball cap or your hard hat.
Yeah.
Right. And what it's doing is the SmartCat fatigue product is measuring a person's ability to resist sleep.
Oh, okay.
So right, it's quite sophisticated, right? And it measures their ability to resist sleep, and it alerts them before they get to that state.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, and we're not collecting any health data. There's no personal data in there.
One specific purpose.
And all they're getting is a reading on their display that pops up a score.
Okay.
2, 3, 4. That's it.
Yeah.
Where 2 is you're great.
Yeah.
Carry on as you're doing. Right. 3 is you're starting to drift into that realm.
Yeah.
Where you have the potential for a microsleep. Right. And we've all done microsleeps to define that. Right. You're watching a movie or you're reading a book or whatever it might be, and you're nodding off. Your eyes, slam shut for a second, a microsecond.
Yeah.
Right. To us, that's a fatigue event.
Yeah.
That needs to be avoided. Right. So when they hit that score 3, it's a warning to the operator that says, hey, time to take some proactive measures. It's self-management tool for them.
Yeah.
Take those proactive measures to basically waken yourself up again. Have a glass of water.
Yeah.
Have an apple. Roll down the window.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And that is typically enough to get them down to that score 2 again.
Right.
And then they can carry on.
That 4 must be.
If they do happen to drift into the 4, they're still not a microsleep. Right. There's still no event happening.
Right.
They're at greater risk now. So now it allows them, okay, is that glass of water or that apple enough?
Yeah.
Right. So now that's where we work. Again, we work with the mining companies to work on that. Okay, what's your process now when this happens? Right. And it's by no means a punishment tool.
No,
absolutely not. It's for safety. It's to keep, everybody, from harm during their shift.
You hear some horror stories and like not just mining, but in heavy industry in general.
Right.
I do love that trend. I didn't actually realize that we probably talked about it in prep, but that's a really good. That's a really good tool.
Yeah, it's an amazing tool, and I think whatever sites we have implemented the SmartCat fatigue solution in, we have eliminated the fatigue events at that site.
Amazing,
right? So yeah, it's an amazing tool, and that's now completely integrated with our FMS. So those scores pop up on the screen, same screen that they're using for their fleet management system or their asset health system. So all that's combined, and I think that's another trend that we're seeing is that situational awareness.
Yeah. The asset health too. That must be a huge benefit to the mining companies, but even to the operators if you actually have operators going too, if they're seeing that data too.
Yeah, so we will primarily for the maintenance department with asset health, right? Yep. So there's different levels. There's a certain amount of asset health awareness within the fleet management system where we will display alarms to the operator. Right? So the OEM system will have its own alarms that we will listen for and we'll relay those. And then according to what the alarm is, they take the appropriate action. when we get into the asset health, a separate system, now we are polling, storing, analyzing, reporting hundreds of different parameters off of each machine, like at all times, and using that data to trend, right? What's happening, and provide those reports and provide the insights to the maintenance department so that they can avoid any unnecessary downtime, right? So avoid the catastrophic failures is one.
Yep.
But usually it's a lot simpler than that. Usually it's just having that data so that they can make the decision on the next PM, right? Oh, okay. Maybe when it's in here, I should be replacing this component based on what I've seen.
Yeah.
Right. Or actually it's scheduled for a replacement, but all the parameters I'm getting back is telling me it's still healthy. I can probably run it for another, X hours or more shifts. Right. And so you're increasing the component life.
Right.
So yeah, very valuable tool in terms of that trending analysis, and again, providing value from that data.
That's excellent. I think I'm really glad we went into the smart cap. That's huge. You think that's going to be implemented at most sites here within the next?
Well, of course, that's our hope. Yeah.
I'm going to say 5 to 10 years, which is actually too long, but.
And there's a lot of fatigue systems out there. There are most of them, and there are implementations and installations globally. Most of those are camera based.
Okay.
So they're capturing the moment when there's a microsleep.
They're not monitoring.
They're not preventing that microsleep.
Okay.
Right. So that's why we've chosen this technology.
I need that sometimes for when I'm driving back and forth over the Coquihalla with the elevation.
Yep, the elevation and the sunlight. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of excellent information on this part too. I think we've kind of delved into it a lot. I'm excited for the next one coming up at Mine Expo, actually. So that'll be fantastic there. And thank you so much, Glen, for joining. Where's the best place to reach you, reach Wenco, if people are looking for, if anything we've talked about, they're looking to implement, where should they find you?
Our head office is here in Vancouver.
Excellent.
Our other main office is in Brisbane, Australia, and we have regional offices globally.
Okay, great.
Right, but of course, www.wencomine.com is the best way to reach any of us. Yeah.
Excellent. We'll link to that in the notes. We'll put your. Do you use LinkedIn in that a lot as well?
I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. We'll put your link there too. So if anybody wants to reach out directly, that's fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you everybody for watching this episode of Mining Now. Again, here at CIM 2024 in Vancouver, BC, and we will see you on the next episode. Please subscribe to Crowns and Partners on YouTube. Follow Crowns and Partners on LinkedIn. Also, Mining Now on LinkedIn to watch when these episodes go live. Until next time, thank you for watching. Have a great day.